Welcome to Freedom Biz Now, the show dedicated to showcasing the best and brightest in business, big and small. Now, welcome the host, founding partner of Freedom Sports and Entertainment and the Freedom Digital Network, from RockVox Studios in Rochester, New York, Mark Washo.
Thanks, Scott, and thank you to RockVox Studios here in Rochester, New York. Today, I've got two local business owners and guests from the Rochester, New York area. This is going to be a local Rock New York show. We've got Tim Garman. He's the president, CEO, and founder of Fairport Brewing and Fairport Beverage Corporation, both LLCs. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Mark.
And we've got Randy Agness, president of and founder also of Agness Wine Cellars, also right here in Rochester, New York, featuring New York State wine. So, Randy, thanks for coming today.
Thank you, Mark.
So today is we're really kind of talking about supporting local and the local Rochester economy. And I guess the first question I wanted to open up to you guys, I guess Tim, we'll go with you first, then Randy, is when this whole COVID-19 crisis came down and New York State deemed, beverages, beer and wine, an essential business. What were your initial thoughts, and what did you guys kind of do in the immediate term to kind of react to that information? And my wife and I were very happy. That was a decision that was made, by the way, for the record.
Thank you. What did we do? Well, first of all, we were praying that we were going to be essential. We had no idea. So we were kind of like in the dark until we had clarification. We got clarification from the New York State Brewers Association, as well as, I think it was the Chamber of Commerce in Rochester, that breweries and wineries were going to be essential services. We had no clue, but we were certainly happy as a small business. Super, super happy that we were able to do that. So,
and Tim, why do you think that was the decision that was made? I mean, some people could argue, well, do you really need beer and wine during a pandemic? So what do you think the decision was on that one?
It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. I have no clue. No clue.
Yeah.
I mean, I could only speculate.
Yeah. And Randy, what about from your end?
Well, we actually found out about this in two different ways. One was we were doing a wine tasting locally, and with that, we had found out by the email that went out to the wine store that they were now an essential business. But I had a feeling that was going to be the case, because back in the time when New Rochelle was closed down by the National Guard, what things did remain open were the wine shops. So if in a crisis like that, the wine shops were going to be remained open, we had a pretty good feeling that was going to be the case, across the state.
Yeah. Now, Randy, your wine business is a little different in the sense that you don't actually have a winery per se, or actual tasting room per se, or even a retail store per se. I mean, a lot of what you do depends on going out to the wine shops, going out to the local restaurants. So obviously, when all the restaurants shut down, my guess is that changed your approach, especially in the near term. But it sounds like you're able to kind of still go to the wine shops right now.
Yes. With the decision, delivery of wine and beer were not shut down, nor were the brewery or the winery operations themselves, because a lot of those are critical and not able to shut down as easily as other businesses, because there's processes that are ongoing. And to have supply, you have to have these operations running so they can make deliveries, or in case of Tim, I would say being able to have a takeout business for products, because if you don't have any supply, you'll end up like the situation we see, across the state, where there's things that will run out. We're lucky that we have a nice quantity of wine on hand. And I know that with Tim's business, it's more renewable than what we do, which is once a year produce.
Yeah, I mean, Tim, so your business is a little different in the sense that you have your Fairport taproom location. You recently opened up the university location down in the city, right, which actually you guys are really starting to get your mojo going with live music and live entertainment and kind of becoming a real destination. So when all this kind of started happening, you had to shut down those taproom operations, and then that's when you, I assume, shifted and pivoted your business. Is that correct?
Of course. It was kind of a knee-jerk reaction. It's like, somebody, turned off the lights, and it's like, all right, so now we're in the dark. How do we come out of this? And of course, things were happening so fast, hour by hour, just the news coming in. And, when we finally realized that we could do takeout, we did takeout. And then we realized that we could do delivery. And, within 24 hours, we were in the delivery business, and never in a million years did I ever think that we would be delivering beer to people's houses, to front doorsteps. But that's what the situation calls for. That's what we did. It's working. We're slowing the bleeding down. We're so lucky. I mean, you think about some of these other businesses out there, like the salons and just the retail stores that are just completely shut down. They don't have a prayer of slowing the bleeding down, unless of course maybe they're doing online. We were so lucky to be able to start delivering. I mean, we're delivering Iron Smoke whiskey to people's door. We're delivering our beers. We're still releasing beers. We've got a beer coming out in the next week called Bare Bones. And we figured we wanted to come up with this beer that people could afford. Craft beer is usually at the high end of the pricing structure for beer. We came up with a Bare Bones craft beer, and we're going to be canning it. And it's probably going to be going out the door next week. We might actually do pre-orders for it. But we've got one of our bartenders delivering wine, beer, spirits, all New York State stuff. And people are really, really thankful and receptive. It's great. I was actually thinking there might be a shortage of growlers because, everybody's getting growlers delivered to their house. So, who knows what tomorrow's going to bring, but yeah, we're pretty lucky that we're able to do this. And we've got a skeleton crew going. We've got on the kombucha side of the business, we're still selling to grocery stores, Wegmans and Tops, and most of the bars and restaurants, that those orders have kind of dried up, as you would expect, but we're just regrouping and trying to get through this thing the best that we can.
Yeah. Now, Tim, I was going to ask you because I actually went online and purchased a growler myself, and I think I got 12 of those stacked up in my garage somewhere, so I could maybe
leave them out. Yeah, okay. On your next order, just leave them out on the front doorstep. They'll collect them. We'll process them and we'll recycle them. Absolutely.
Nice. But I was going to ask you, you kind of have a really cool, easy to use e-commerce site. I think I actually mentioned it to Randy. I mean, was that something you guys already had in place, or was that part of your scramble when you decided, hey, we got to figure out a platform to take things for delivery?
I have to hand it to our website design guy, Sam Pizzo. He pointed us in the direction, and like I said, we were up and running. We were up and running in 24 hours. We had some bumps, but we got over it, within 3 or 4 days, and now it's operating pretty smooth. So I think, to be honest with you, I think the delivery business is here to stay.
Yeah. And I actually, I got to follow up to that in a minute, but Randy, just going back to you for a brief moment, and because I do want to talk to Tim about their current manufacturing and production that they're trying to do in this environment. But I think you had mentioned, fortunately for you, I guess you had already bottled and packaged your wine. I mean, what time of the year do you typically harvest and then bottle your wine? And do you feel like you have good inventory to get you through to the next cycle and hope that there is a next cycle?
Well, this is what we've done. Harvest usually takes place in the Finger Lakes between late September and the end of October. And for the 2019 vintage that's going to be coming up, it looked like one of the best vintages that will be around and processed in the Finger Lakes probably for the last 20 years. It was just an unbelievable vintage. Great weather, great terroir for producing grapes of just a super premium point. And so we actually bought more than what we expected to, bought additional tanks to be able to produce again, and we can basically put online almost the same amount or doubling of what we've made this year by the end of August. We typically, it varies. The wine is ready when it's ready, so we've had it bottled as early as February and as late as August. So, and last year we had a record amount that we produced, and with that has given us a decent amount of inventory to weather any storm that's possible. In fact, we have a lot of restaurant clients that we basically have decided that with them is to hold off until this thing clears. But we have like 20 or 30 new clients that are just waiting for this to clear and pick up inventory. So we're hoping that this thing will settle down fairly quickly. Obviously no one wants to rush into it and then have another spike. But I think that we're seated pretty good as far as inventory, and we have great inventory, for the next vintage, for the 19 vintage. And coming up, we have more tanks on orders, more equipment on order. So our 20, which will be picked this October, is going to hopefully maybe even double again. We just have had a lot of activity. A lot of people like the wine. And at this point, we're considered the fastest growing Riesling. No one can really double their volumes every year. But we started small, and now we're getting bigger, and we're able to handle it. And we're actually looking out to have our wine distributed outside of New York for the first time.
That's awesome. And as you know, I'm a big fan. And back when I was at the Rhinos in the soccer stadium, we used to love having you come into the stadium and go into the suites and give tastings and samplings on the concourse. So that's a whole different topic, professional sports and when they may not return in that environment. But hey, Tim, back to you for a moment. So you guys are manufacturing right now.
We are.
How have you changed that process, and what measures are you taking to make sure that everything kind of stays safe and in a good environment so you can keep your production up?
Well, we're operating with a skeleton crew. We've got a couple brewers going, and just being shut down. I mean, it's a pretty safe environment. We're not getting a lot of traffic. We do in the city get some people that come in with their growlers for fill ups, but it's very, very limited. Our guys are wearing masks. It's business as usual. I mean, when we make beer, we're making it for really, our two places. So, we've got a good supply right now. And like I said, we released a new beer, 3-4 weeks ago, and we've got another beer coming out, probably next week, the Bare Bones, and, which is a blonde, by the way. So, it's kind of business as usual, but it's very, just because, we lost, all that retail crowd, we have to be really careful about, where we're spending our money and what we're doing. So,
yeah. Now, Tim, I was going to ask you, because now you do have 2 retail locations, and, for example, the Fairport location is kind of a local mainstay, especially when the weather starts to break and get nice. And, are you guys starting to put some planning in place? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you're going to follow the guidelines of the government and, Governor Cuomo in New York State and all that good stuff. But I mean, the reality is you guys could probably come up with some type of social distancing model where, especially out on your big patio where tables could be 6-8 feet apart. And there could be that environment where maybe you guys are one of the first kind of businesses to slowly come back. I mean, what are you guys planning in that regard? Well,
we're planning like every day. Every day, again, the news just keeps coming in. Today it was... Governor Cuomo had mentioned that it's going to be another 30 days. I think it's May 15th before we start bringing businesses back online. And, good or bad, it is what it is. That's what we have to deal with.
Yep.
And so, every day the story changes a little bit. But you're right, Mark. We're planning. I mean, our patio is like the perfect place for social distancing. And we can get a fair amount of people out there. We've got chairs, we'll have umbrellas. And again, if we have to, we have a very small tap room in Fairport, but if we have to remove some chairs, around the bar, I mean, we're happy to do that and be responsible about it. In the city, obviously, my guess is they're going to have some limitations on occupancy right before this had happened, they had halved everybody's occupancies in the bars and restaurants. So my guess is as we roll back into whatever the normal is going to be, they're gonna change the occupancy for the time being. And again, we've got a pretty big place over there, 10,000 square feet. We've got a 62-foot bar. If we put everybody, we can still get 10 or 12 people at that bar, with some serious distance. And of course, there's plenty of places to stand, et cetera. But it's about how the public is going to respond to everything that's happened. And, it's an ongoing process. People are, some people are going to be very cautious. So I think it's going to take a while for things to ramp up on the retail side of things. But I think we're in a really good position to withstand, whatever's thrown at us.
Yeah, and I think, again, people are going to have to be creative, pivot a little bit, as the saying goes in business. And hey, Randy, I was going to ask you, when I worked for Celebrity Cruises, Royal Caribbean for a little while, and talk about another industry that's just is in a rough position right now. But we had talked about creating these like kind of pop-up stores where we go into an abandoned loft space or retail place and rent it for a month, and like they do at the Halloween stores or whatever. And they've actually done that a handful of times, and it was really successful, where they set up like kind of lounges to promote the cruise brand and get people taking cruises. I mean, have you thought, I know before all this, I think you had thought about that. Like, are you in a position where you could maybe do an Agness Wines pop-up location for a month and maybe have it in an outdoor safe environment space as well? Or is that something you think is further down the road for you?
I really don't think that that's our business model. Our model is to support the restaurants and bars that serve our wine, and also the wine shops that sell our wine. We've got over 200 clients across the state. That gives us a pretty wide view of the entire state, and we've got some 30 new customers coming online. I think our focus will be on, as it has been, making sure that they're fully supported. And one of those ways we're doing it is pretty unusual, but it might become more common, is we're actually every Thursday night at 7 p.m. on our Facebook page, Agness Wine Cellars, we are actually doing virtual tastings. And we're not just tasting our wine, we're actually tasting Finger Lakes wines from all around the area. We feel it's, what we can do to help out in this crisis is to say, hey, there's a whole industry out there that you should try and find out more about. And we had our first broadcast last week and have over 3,000 people, viewing it, which is fantastic. And now we've got support from all the area wine shops. They really want to say, hey, we've been supportive of the Finger Lakes wine industry, and we would like to support this telecast, this broadcast that you're doing. So that's really our focus now, is to say, hey, there's a lot of really great wines out there. I'm going to taste some with you. I'm going to let you know ahead of time, what we're tasting. If you want to, buy into this and you want to do the tasting along with us. We've gotten a lot of questions with the one we had done last week, where they could buy it and more about the wine and the wineries themselves. Didn't expect that we would do this and really liked the idea. They liked the idea that, there is a broadcast, their wine is getting talked about. And, trying to be very supportive of the industry. We've been constantly, advertising to go and get takeouts. The restaurants are in such a desperate need of takeouts. And the food is fantastic. You just have to say, okay, I can make it home, or I can have it picked up. And now, as what had been mentioned earlier, you can sell wine and beer, with the takeout, which has definitely been a plus for a lot of places. I know it's been a plus for Fairport Brewing. Actually, Fairport Brewing is one of our clients, and we have a great relationship with them. So the one thing we will be missing is the events. One in particular will be the Fairport Canal Days. We did a fantastic amount of wine during that event with Fairport Brewing, and I'm really going to miss that one a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned, and I was going to ask you the I guess they loosened the restriction on restaurants being able to also serve beer and wine with their takeout orders, and I imagine that was a really positive development. And a lot of restaurants are getting really creative, not only with online ordering, but it's like you pull up, pop your trunk, they drop it in, you go, you've already given them your credit card. I mean, there's really no interaction in that environment. So So you anticipate that that's going to continue, right? The opportunity to sell beer and wine with food for takeout.
It'll be interesting if they take that away. I think once they've set this model in place, I don't see it coming off the menu of the things that the wine shops and the bars can do, because it's created a new outlet for them for revenue, and New York State is all about revenue. So, if they can get a greater amount of sales through these the wine shops and through the bars and restaurants, the breweries, they have the brew pubs, it's a positive thing for New York. And anything like that, usually New York won't take away, especially since it has been the lifeline for a lot of these operations.
Yeah. Now, Randy, you brought up another point. Tim, this one is definitely hits home for you all. I mean, we talk about like professional sports and concerts, but then you have all these, especially in Rochester, when we have that little short 3-4 month window when the weather's great here, and you have all these great festivals, Lilac Festival, Park Avenue, right there in your backyard, the Fairport Canal Days. I mean, my gosh, those are just great, huge community events, hundreds of thousands of people. I imagine you guys are packed from sunrise to sunset. How are you, man, how are you going to kind of compensate for an event like that not happening in your backyard?
We're not.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's right. Yeah, that's the sad
Nobody's going to compensate for it.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Again, this is a worldwide pandemic. Every country is involved, every state, every person is affected by it. All the businesses, whether you're a lawyer at a big firm or a brewer, everybody is affected by it. And it's just like, all boats have sunk. Not sunk, but sunk in a little bit. We're going to remain positive here, but but you know what? There's also opportunities, and like Randy was saying, you got bars and restaurants, doing this takeout thing, and I think the support has been really good. I know it from our standpoint. Our customers have just been wonderful, and we're just we're distributing to a 20-mile radius of our university location, which covers a lot of ground. And we're seeing orders coming in from all over the place, even in Canandaigua, which is outside that 20 miles an hour or 20-mile radius. We're seeing neighbors get together and place large orders and say, okay, we want 15 cases of your kombucha. And we're like, absolutely, we will make that stop. We'll see you on Thursday. So people are getting creative, and I think obviously a lot of people are got cabin fever. So little interaction when the doorbell rings and you got a growler on your front doorstep, or a case of kombucha, or a bottle of Iron Smoke whiskey or Agness wine, delivered to your door. That's kind of a cool thing, and it's just, it's all good. And I think we're all in this boat together. So,
Yeah. And that's a great point, Tim, because I know when my little delivery came, it did. And, it brightens your day for that.
Did it not put a smile on your face?
And it came perfect time, right before I fired up the fire pit and was able to relax a little bit on Friday. But no, that's a great point. And my kids love getting stuff when they order from Amazon, all that craziness. But you also have taken to the social airways as well. And I think this is also the year, like, it was interesting because a lot of people were going towards these digital platforms, podcasts, on air, streaming, Facebook Live, Zoom media. So I know you started this, Daily Toast, and what else you doing, like, not only with that, but social media and other ways to kind of stay connected, like you said, socially, even though you can't be together in person?
Well, obviously, as a brewery, we're already connected. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, we're already there, and of course emails. But I would say, the big thing for us was the Daily Toast, and it was with all this darkness that was coming at us every hour, every day. It was like, I think we started it on the 16th, I think it was March 15th, 16th, which was like lights out day. And it was just like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. We need something positive because there's nothing but negative. So, I was talking to Scott and we came up with this idea, the Daily Toast. And, we had a logo for it, like in 10 minutes. And we said, we're going to do this every night at 8:30 PM. We're going to bring in a guest. We're going to talk about reality for a minute. We're going to have a few laughs. And then we're going to have the guest give the daily toast. And the daily toast is dedicated to whoever that guest wants. We've had, tonight we've got Senator Rich Funky, who's going to be our guest. We've had teachers, principals, retired principals, candidates for Senate, legislators. I mean, it's just cool because these people are just people too. And it's comforting, at the end of the day to finish the day on a positive note. And that was the idea of the Daily Toast. And, we don't care what you're drinking. We really don't. We hope it's local, but it doesn't have to be ours. The key here is we want a ray of positiveness at the end of the day. And that's the purpose of it. So it's been very successful. It's been a lot of fun. We've had Claudia Heuser. We've had retired fire chief at the Rochester International Airport. Just some really, really cool people you just don't meet every day. And people have been very receptive to it. So it's kind of cool. Kind of cool.
Yeah. And, what's super cool about that, even though you didn't mention a handful of musicians, and I know you had outreach to me with some other, maybe some sports folks and things, but usually in these social media platforms, it's always entertainers, performers, athletes, right. But here you are talking to police folks, fire, EMT, first responders, school people. That's really cool, right? I mean, to show the I guess the true heroes in some ways, not to be cheesy on it, but it's true, right? I mean,
everyday people,
sure,
and we're showing,
but they're doing great things.
They're doing great things. They're all doing great things, and that's pretty great.
That's awesome. I drove through a neighborhood in Penfield the other day. My daughter's trying to get her driver's license, so she's practicing, and we cruised through a neighborhood, and everybody was out in their driveways. Everybody was keeping their space and had signs and cowbells, and they were cheering. I guess one of the nurses must work at one of the hospitals. She was coming off her shift, and I was like, man, that's just a really cool thing to see, It
really is.
Yeah, and so having people like that on is awesome. And so we're kind of getting to the end of the segment here, and we wanted to kind of keep this short and sweet, but at the same time make sure that we covered ground to, again, support local restaurants, businesses, craft breweries, and local wine. So, Randy, just what are you guys? What other kind of promotions and specials are you kind of running right now? Where can people find you? And what's your game plan, I guess, as you look ahead here? Again, to Tim's point, just even though things keep changing every day and the timeline maybe keeps changing, so tell us kind of what you're up to and what your kind of immediate term plans are.
Well, we have definitely been promoting the wine shops that carry the wines. That's very important for us. This is their time of need. And surprisingly, it's been effective. March to March 2019, 2020 wine sales are up 55%. That's just was not planned by anyone. We've been working with company. It's called Uncork New York. It's now called, I think, Up New York or Up one of those sites, and they basically had a feature where it was called Open Local Wine with the hashtag, and they had that event a couple weeks ago. And what we did is anyone that promoted our wine during that broadcast, it was basically you could post on Facebook or any other social media. And what we did is we collected all the people's names and we did a random number generator, and one person got a bottle of wine for, saying, hey, we see our name up there and you're promoting us. And we're also doing that during the broadcast that we're doing on Thursday night at 7. So one person we randomly will pick from the people that sign in, and they get a bottle of wine. And so it's kind of a fun little thing that, hey, just by watching this, it's nice and it's entertaining, but hey, I got a chance to get a bottle of wine out of it. So we think that's kind of nice. And we opened up our case club. We hadn't had a case club before, and we said, okay, why don't we do it? And so we have, and we've had a nice initial response, which is nice. And we also focus, again, there's so much of our business is with, our clients, just like what Tim said. We want to promote our product through them, and then in turn they'll buy from us. And that's really been our model. And we've sold out our wine every single year, and we're growing, doubling our size every year. So, it's a model that's working for us right now.
And Randy, where can people find you on social channels and on your website?
Sure. For the Facebook Live events, it's Agness Wine Cellars on Facebook, and it's Cellars. A lot of people were having trouble with that, but that got cleaned up pretty quick. And if they want to make an order from outside the areas that are typical, then they can come right to our website, so agnesswinecellars.com. And we are obviously monitoring that on a daily basis. And we're continuing to deliver to all of our customers that, the wine is selling. And so there's nothing wrong with us delivering and keep them up to date.
That's great. And it's great to see that as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, you're supporting other local and small businesses. So that's excellent. And I guess, Tim, same thing for you. Where can people find you? Where can they find your Daily Toast? And what other kind of promotions and specials are you kind of running in for now?
Well, the Daily Toast is Facebook Live. So every night, 8:30 p.m., just go to Facebook and Fairport Brewing Facebook site. What was the other question, Mark?
Oh, just kind of, can people just find how can they get deliveries and what, the new beer that's coming out? Any promotions you got? Yeah,
fairportbrewing.com. If anybody wants a delivery, fairportbrewing.com. Just go to the top of the page, home delivery, click the button. There's a menu there. We just keep adding more and more local products to that. We picked up Claudia Heuser's coffee, which is made here locally. We've got our coffee. We've got, wine, Agness. We've got Iron Smoke whiskey. We've got St. Lawrence. I mean, all New York State products here. So, so that's what we're doing. And we're just focusing on, hopefully, whatever the plan is, we're, moving forward, trying to figure out every day, what's going on. So, that's where you'll find us.
Well, before I just throw it out to both of you guys, if you have any just final parting thoughts here as we get ready to wrap today's discussion, just wanted to say thank you to both of you. I mean, you guys have been big supporters of not only myself when I was at the Rochester Rhinos in Marina Auto Stadium. You guys both were big supporters of the Startup Summit when I had it last October. And I am doing that again, by the way, if all things go well and we can reopen up again November the 11th at Spot Cowork. So I just want to say thank you. It's great that you guys are staying in business. It's great that you're supporting each other. It's great you're supporting the local community. And I'm a big fan of both of yours. And I just want to say thanks for coming into this platform. And hopefully, like you said, providing a little diversion, not to detract from the reality of things that are really serious and happening out there right now. But just any parting thoughts or words from either of you guys? I guess, Tim, we'll start with you.
No, just stay positive. I was talking to a friend this afternoon and he's like, oh, the governor just extended the, this stay at home for another 30 days. And I'm like, look, find the positive in it, get out, shed some pounds, clean your basement. You're going to come out of this better. You're going to come out of this better. Things are going to get better and we need to focus on the positive.
Yeah, it's the old control you can control and don't worry about the stuff you can, or instead of complaining about the 20 things you can't do, hey, what about the 10 things you can? And even just things like this, just little therapeutic, take our minds off it and talk about, business for a change in wine and beer. So thanks, Tim. That's really awesome. And Randy, what about you?
I'm trying to go out and have pickup orders from restaurants that are clients, supporting them. I've asked my girlfriend, hey, do you want to go to a wine shop today, as a date, or, possibly a Wegmans or other grocery store. I'll tell you, I have to give a shout out to McCann's Meats. They have some excellent stuff. Didn't ever know that. Didn't know them until I met them at another event, and was really happy with what we had from them. They just really are top notch. But it's kind of funny. You're stuck at home and you've kind of seen almost all the Netflix that you can, and you get to a point where these live broadcasts, just like Tim and I have been doing, is it gives you a little break, and everyone needs to have a laugh and a smile sometimes to try and get through this together.
So again, thanks to Scott and Rockfox Studios. Thank you to Tim from Fairport Brewing and Fairport Beverage Corporation, and thank you to Randy from Agness Wine Cellars. And Please stay safe and well, everyone. Support local, and thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you.